Have you seen it?
The movie Superbad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've fucking seen Superbad.
Okay.
I finally
Watched.
I finally
Watched.
I
finally
Watched.
I
finally
Watched.
I finally
Watched.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of I Finally Watched. I'm Milan.
And this is David. And today we finally watched Dogma.
I kind of knew what I was getting into with this. I've seen like a bunch of clips online. Okay, I take that back. When I say a bunch, I've seen a bunch of clips of only one scene, and it's the George Carlin scene
Which
with
one? The
Buddy
church that made a lot of
Jesus.
mistakes? Oh, the beginning. Okay.
The beginning. Yeah. And so when it was the beginning of the movie, it's like the second scene of the movie. I was actually quite surprised that that was so early on in the movie because it is literally the most reused clip of the movie is that scene. And I do enjoy how it just sounds like a Carlin stand-up skit.
Right.
His monologue, right, until you get to the Buddy Jesus thing, but that's great too. Which I also thought the Buddy Jesus thing was going to be play a bigger role in the grand scheme of things. So I was quite surprised that it was just basically like a visual gag joke, which fine, okay. And then like the rebranding of Catholicism is hilarious because I think I've even made that joke in the past, not to you or any particular thing, just like in general. But yeah, like that whole thing is just hilarious to me. So, anyways, I was like, okay, this movie starts off really strong for me. The abortion clinic scenes between the chick from Clerks and our main character, I thought was great.
Garofalo is the chick from Clerks to you?
Isn't she from Clerks?
Yeah, but she's Janine. Well, first of all, I don't remember her in Clerks, but I guess it's been a while. But she's Janine Garofalo. I think she might have been in Clerks.
Mm. She was in another Kevin Smith thing for sure, but yeah, sorry.
She's rather famous, but that's fine.
No,
Wet
I
Hot
know she's famous. I know she's
Summer.
famous. It's just that I couldn't. What? Oh, yes. Okay, you know what? Never mind. She's the chick from Wet Hot American Summer. That's a much better, like, more
Love you.
iconic role for her, for sure. But I thought that was really strong and that was really funny. And then I kind of think the movie went a little downhill from there.
I don't agree.
You think the movie went uphill from there?
I don't know, man. Perhaps in the next couple of words, I would have answered that question. I think
Mm,
it was pretty even keel for me throughout. So she is not in Clerks, by the way. Just not
okay,
even. No, just I.
that's fine.
The chick from that. Yeah. Anyway, so you asked me when I was halfway through it what I was rating it. And I was like, I don't know, probably like a 7 out of 10 or whatever. It's not. It's not like a movie that I have any relationship with. I think people who watched it when it came out in the preceding years, and then, it had this kind of long, like recent history of being hard to watch anymore, right? Because it was only available on like a YouTube stream. I think those people have more of a relationship with it. I thought it was really good. It kind of felt very like a very cozy movie to me in that like just very easy to watch, had some laughs, had an interesting story. And it also made me think of this point, which you didn't want to talk about off the podcast. So I know you're going to have a lot of thoughts right now, ready to buzz in with. But it was just so easy to, such an easy movie to follow. And I don't know when that changed with movies where like a movie has to, like movies nowadays really want to make it hard for you to follow the plot. Whereas in the 90s, it felt like every story was so linear.
I don't understand this position you have, and I'll buzz in now. Buzz. The plot to this, I feel like, is actually more complicated than it should be. Not saying that it has a complicated plot, but I feel like the filmmaking decisions in this movie try to make it more convoluted than it actually is, with pun intended, all of the like dogmatic phrases and uses and like trying to complicate things on like, hey, it's just two fallen angels trying to get back into heaven, man. Right? Uh but I'm confused by what you mean by like movies nowadays that have complicated plot because again, other than movies that are trying to confuse its audience or trying to have like a more what like pretentious plot than need be, most movies I think people would argue that most movies are pretty like straightforward, especially like the big blockbusters.
I guess maybe it's just the movies that interest us, and I don't even mean it's not like you and I are watching like art house films, but I just think like so. As an example, in the beginning of this, there's the scene on the boardwalk where later you figure out that though that was Jesus being attacked by the hockey players
And it was
sent by
God.
sorry, God sent by Azrael, right? God, Jesus, Holy Trinity, you get it, but I like that's normally a thing, and like it to me when I was watching this, it was so easy, like as the movie was going on, to call back to that scene because it was stuck with you so much. I think a lot of times you and I talked about this so many times on the pod, especially with with the movies. We do a lot of movies over the last 20 years or whatever, where we're like, oh, I watched that a second time and now figure out how those things relate, right? Where it's like this
Sure, sure.
things like it was easy to spot the important things as you were going along in the movie and remember them for when they were explained. So even though there was that thing in the beginning with the guy getting attacked, you're like, what the fuck was that? It's like as it goes on, you're like, oh, that was God. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think you can connect those dots pretty easily. And I
I agree.
guess well, what I'm saying is that I guess the movie we just did before this, Inherent Vice, is a bad example to bring up because we kind of said how much, like how it is so needed to watch that movie a second, maybe a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh time to quite grasp all the nuance, right? But that is, I mean, Kevin Smith is a type of director, and Thomas Anderson is another very different type of
You think they're
director.
they're different. I would say they're different too. I agree.
I would say that Kevin Smith mostly leans towards simpler movies, and PTA leads, kind of towards more three-dimensional, deeper movies. You know, it's like Michael Bay and Kubrick, right? It's tomato. It's I was gonna say tomato tomato, but it's the opposite of that. It's black and white, and which is no problem with that. I mean, I think you can find joy and entertainment in any director's works. I'm just saying that you're comparing movies in general to like from the 90s to today's, and I think there are some movies that aren't that big of, like you said, movies that we're attracted to. I'm thinking of mostly A24 movies. A lot of A24 movies plots are pretty simple. They just dress it up with a lot of set dressing and good acting and, stuff.
But I mean, I was thinking about like Green Room when we did that, right? There's a lot of little things in that movie. You can follow the overall plot very simply, and it's like a
Green Room?
Green Room. The guys get
Oh,
stuck
Green
in
Room.
the back
Yes,
room,
yes, yes, yes.
of the Nazi bar. But there's a lot of like little details about like, oh, the fact that that guy and that girl were trying to escape, and that was his brother at the radio station at the beginning of the movie. There's a lot of little details that were hard to connect, like until I watched it a second time. And you're bringing up Kubrick. I think Eyes Wide Shut, 1999 movie, is honestly a pretty easy movie plot wise to follow.
I wasn't really comparing Kubrick with Kevin Smith though. I was more like
Yeah, I think that,
that was my comparison to Michael Bay, like on how different they are. And I'm not saying different because one is more complicated than the other. I'm just saying that you expect a certain type of movie coming from one director versus another type of director. And I'm not really thinking of Kevin Smith as like the type of director that I'm watching his movies to think deep. No offense to Kevin Smith. I think probably the most PTA esque movie Kevin Smith has ever done was probably Chasing Amy.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe. I don't. I guess I don't know. I think it feels like we're having arguments that are going in different directions because I'm just saying that movies have more complicated plots now. That's my thesis.
Okay. Okay. I just wish you could give a little bit like more linear examples of like direct examples of your thesis, right?
I mean,
Prove your
even
hypothesis.
well, I mean, even Boogie Nights is a very linear story, easy to follow. There's no callbacks to different plot points, whereas Inherent Vice there is, right? Magnolia, pretty easy story to
Okay, that's
follow.
pretty good. That's not bad.
I mean, I just feel like there's so many times now where when we do a movie, I'm like having to explain the plot to you. Ocean's 12 is one that that comes to mind where you and Taylor were like, "Yeah, that movie kind of sucked." And then I was like, "Well, but I think this is the thing you missed because I watched it again." And I agreed with you when I watched it the first time. I was like, "This movie's not that great." And then I watched it again. I was like, "Oh shit. I wasn't able to connect the thing in the beginning and realize that this is why it's great." I mean, and I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I like the fact that I had a better opinion of something when I watched it again. I was just saying that it also is sometimes when you just want to have a not a big think when you're watching a movie, you can put on a 90s movie and it will be pretty simple. And a Kevin Smith movie is pretty simple too, I guess. And like
No, for
there's
sure, for
also
sure.
comedy versus drama that also has a big to do with it too, right?
Also, I mean, yeah, when you say put on a 90s movie to keep it simple, I my thought directly went to a bunch of Harrison Ford films. Like I feel like Fugitive, Witness, like all of those are very comfy 90s movies. Even Air Force 1 is like you get it, right? It's not taking a lot of brain power to maneuver through those
And that's
movies.
actually you saying that kind of makes the point to me too, is that like so back in the day, I think movies took for granted that the audience would just sort of accept things, and that has to do a lot with like the internet and the availability of information where you just put shit in there that doesn't really make sense and like people wouldn't question it as much, and where now people question it. So I think it has a little bit to do with like the less dumbing down of movies.
It's 100% that. It's also that today's audiences want to be surprised and wowed, and it is hard to do that. You know, you've heard of the thing like every story has already been told, right?
Right.
And so it's just different movies or different books are just the same stories with different packaging, different execution. And it's hard to kind of keep up with today's society of like breaking those expectations. So maybe filmmakers have to feel like, oh, we have to do this convoluted, complicated thing. And you know, it's funny you say that because at the same time they do over explain the convoluted, complicated thing that they're putting in their movies to being like, hey, we want to make it interesting to you, but we also want the dumb fuckers to keep up.
I think it
Right.
depends though, right? Like an A24 movie, like those example, like those kind of smaller studio movies, they don't explain it to you, right? And like you got to go read something afterwards and have someone explain to you what the fuck you watched.
So
Then you have like
you
a Netflix movie on the other side of the spectrum where it's just like we're gonna
oh my
tell you
god.
what the plot is.
Well, I mean, but those Netflix execs have come out blatantly saying that they purposely produce movies that you can run mindlessly in the background. That's
Right.
why the same plot point and the same explanation are repeated 10, 20 times
You know
throughout the
what's
movies.
you know what's funny though is they are made to be mindless movies and yet they are so bad, right? Like I've given a ton of those movies a chance and been like, this is shit. Like, The Gray Man is, I think, one of the last ones I was kind of excited for, and then I watched it and was like, "That's not a good movie."
Whenever I hear someone complimenting a Netflix movie, my first thought is, "Oh, you're not an intelligent human being."
Well, maybe,
It's
or oh, wait, was that one that they bought after the fact that someone else made? Because like The Ritual, you and I both liked, is a Netflix movie.
I have heard some fucking well, that's true, but I've heard some fucking plebs
You sound
like
like such a fucking loser right now.
yeah, whatever. But I've heard people
Let's get to
give
Dogma. We're 15 minutes in and we haven't talked about Dogma. So there are two like things about this movie. One, there was the uproar of Christians, but mostly Catholics at the release of this movie. And I guess a lot of that had to do with this movie went through several rewrites, and the third iteration of the script ended up online. And specifically the Catholic League like protested the movie. And then Kevin Smith told a story about how the leader of William Donahue, the leader of the Catholic League, I guess, asked for a screening so he could speak intelligently about the movie. And Kevin Smith was like, "What have you been doing for the past 6 months? Like when you've been talking shit about the movie?" And I think there are obviously like points that people, Catholics, Christians, could point to in this movie and be like, that is sacrilegious or whatever things that they have a problem with. But overall, I don't really. That is not what I get from this movie. I think the movie
yeah.
is not attempting to do that. I think the movie is obviously questioning things, but
I
overall, I would
like
not.
the
I would not say it's an. Let me finish my point. I would not say it's an anti-religious, anti-Christian, even anti-Catholic movie.
I would say it's an anti-Catholic movie. I agree with you in saying it's not anti-Christian or anti-religion. I think it puts it under a microscope, which a lot of those kind of people are scared of doing because they either, think their religion, their 1,000-year-old religion is so rickety that it can be completely unraveled by a fucking, 1999 movie, which I guess is like to speak to the point that they don't have much faith, pun intended, in their own belief that a movie can completely, undo the sands of time. But also, this movie does speak a, up against organized religion, which I'm super opposed to. So everything that the point was making for that, I was 100% behind. I do like Kevin Smith's restraint on making like choir boy pedophile joke under the Catholic Church. Like I was 100% expecting something like that, and that never came. And I was like, wow, okay, surprise, surprise, because that's like a low hanging for forbidden fruit. You know,
You're mixing your metaphors.
I know. Uh,
The other part about this is so because of that controversy, that this movie Disney put this movie out under the Miramax label, and then when the controversy happened, they didn't want anything to fucking do with it. So then Harvey Weinstein bought the movie personally, and then he owned it, which is why since his conviction, it was very hard to watch except on YouTube. And then I guess to like help with his appeal, he had to sell it. He needed money. And so that is now why you and I both have physical copies of the movie and we're able to watch it so easily, which was
wow,
nice.
the only good thing Weinstein has done. Look at that. You know what's
Probably.
in what's what's interesting too. I mean, Weinstein probably doesn't have much moral compass, so he probably doesn't give a shit of what the repercussions of Dogma does to the religious facilities of the world. But it is interesting to think that Disney was like watched this movie, was behind this movie until they were like, oh shit, because Disney's a bunch of pussies anyways. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's very telling. The other thing is the huge like disclaimer in the beginning of this movie. I thought was very funny. I thought it was like usually disclaimers like that are used for a joke, but you could tell there was like a gravitas to it. Like, hey, we actually need to put this in here for legal reasons. It felt like.
Well, no, it's also just pointing out like, hey, you guys are being ridiculous with something you haven't seen. So, and this movie too, I haven't seen it, right? That's the point of the pod. That's what I said at the top. I had seen probably this was on TV all the time. I had seen so many bits and pieces, particularly of the last like 30 minutes of it, so that were very familiar to me. Like I knew Alanis Morissette was the embodiment of God in the movie. I knew kind of the church scene, and I knew that God showed up, right? And I knew that God was like incapacitated. It was funny, you saying the chick, the chick from Clerks earlier, but oh, you thought she was the one that fucked all the dudes in the parking lot or blew all the guys?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. So my friend was like, "Oh yeah, that Janine Garofalo movie." I was like, "She's in 3 minutes of the movie." Although stepping on alternate casting, Kevin Smith at one point said that he kind of wished he had made her Bethany, the main character, which to me is like a completely different movie. And I don't know, my relationship with Janine Garofalo, like believing that she would become like religious in the end, I don't know, is like a stretch. But this movie isn't even about any of those characters because, like, I don't know, if you look at the old DVD cover or the posters, whatever, like this is the Matt and Ben show.
Yeah.
And I think without them, this movie is not anything near what it is.
I will agree with you and also add I think Jay and Silent Bob bring this movie down about 2 notches.
They're not really in it that much. You know, it's funny. So, like, I've probably talked about this before, but my first Kevin Smith movie is Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and it is still my favorite Kevin Smith movie.
I'm not saying Jay and Silent Bob are bad characters. I'm just saying because Jay and Silent Bob are such established characters
A Skewniverse,
within the universe of Kevin Smith.
the
It,
Skewniverse.
yeah. It's distracting. It's very distracting. And I wonder if you benefit
I mean, no,
or
no. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people enjoy them in this, me being one of them. Apparently, Jason Mewes, was
Jason Mewes,
just
yeah.
like off his ass on heroin, like the entire filming of this movie.
No way, really?
Yeah, like there's apparently certain like wide shots in the bar when Azrael has them where he's just like about to fall asleep. So, like,
Well, that is kind of a Jay thing to do.
yeah, there's also this funny like Kevin Smith story where it's like I think he told it like after Alan Rickman passed, where he was like looks over and Jason Mewes and Alan Rickman are just deep in conversation. He's like, "What the fuck do those two have to talk about?" And he was like, "Apparently Alan Rickman just loved him, like was
Hmm.
a big fan of him." So I don't know. It's just funny. Like, and Alan Rickman is also only in so he's in one scene in the beginning or one like conglomeration of scenes, and then he comes back towards the end. You feel like he's in a lot more, and he is another like great part of the movie. Like every scene he's in is great. I think every scene that Matt and Ben are in is great. Chris Rock is one of the funniest parts. And there's just there's a lot of like
I think Chris Rock is the best part of the movie for me. Like his character Rufus the 13th Apostle is a great joke for a lot of the other related jokes to that in the movie.
right.
I will say that I feel like there's a lot of really great actors in here that are not batting 100 in this. Like I know that Alan Rickman is a better actor than he is in this. I know that
But what did you want Alan Rickman to do in this? It's a comedy.
yeah, but even they have monologues and Jason Lee was another person I was going to say. It's just that and I don't blame them for it. It's just that I think Kevin Smith the director is lacking more than Kevin Smith the writer. And that's kind of how I feel about all Kevin Smith stuff. It's like I feel like the writing is really good, but the directing is a little off. And whether that's his style or whatever, man, it's just that these actors you've seen them in a lot of stuff like Matt Damon for example, you see them in a lot of stuff that they are like Oscar worthy stuff and this is not it.
It's because this is a comedy.
Yeah, but I've seen comedies give pretty good acting chops.
I really don't like. I don't see it the way you do, so that's fine. Like we're not gonna argue each other into a position here. So I think the opening scene in the airport's very funny. Apparently, Gwyneth Paltrow is just sitting off screen while they're sitting at the airport. Like just wanted to be on set, but like she
Because
doesn't appear
Gwyneth
in the.
Paltrow is
She was
dating Ben Affleck at the time.
friends with Ben Affleck at this
Oh,
point. This was right after Shakespeare in Love, so I think they were like close friends. The nun thing is very funny, and then afterwards, Loki's like, "Yeah, I love like messing with these people." And then we get basically the whole plot of the movie. We got to walk through this arch, our sins will be forgiven, and then we die. And he's like, someone sent them a paper, and we find out later that that was Jason Lee.
Jason Lee is great in this, by the way. I was just like, his whole character of this demon is just such a Jason Lee move, and it is funny because we just did Almost Famous, where he plays a completely different character.
Yeah, but it's always Jason Lee, and I don't know if that's just because his voice is so distinct. The only like thing where Jason Lee is like a completely different character to me is like My Name is Earl,
Yeah, he's like unrecognizable in that. I feel like.
and it's just but his intonation and the way he speaks seems kind of different in that too. Oh, obviously, purposely, right?
Yeah,
I
but
love
not really. Like, I don't know. There is something about Jason Lee that goes from role to role that you're like, that's Jason Lee.
yeah, it's the voice. I like the joke at the end. Can't be anal retentive without an anus. It's a good joke. And then we find out like Loki we all now know, right, as the Norse god of mischief, so that he is the angel of death in this, which I guess Azrael is supposed to technically be the angel of death. uh it's just interesting the use of that. And then we meet Jason Lee, and we see the base of operations, that house, whatever's going on there, but we still don't, they're looking for the last sign, which is all like, it's like, what's going on there, but the movie as it developed explains it. It's easy to call back to what was happening, and I don't know, very easy to follow for me, as I said.
You know what's funny is like the plot to this, and I know you probably haven't even seen a single episode of CW's Supernatural, but later seasons, Metatron shows up to give the word of God and to put heaven in like a civil war sort of thing. Azrael shows up. Loki isn't normally in this sort of Catholicism venture, but you have like Bartleby and everyone like that in that show as angels fighting. This is the plot of like two fallen angels trying to get back into heaven is such a CW show plot. Like to take up like a whole season that literally the argument that how God favors the humans over the angels that the Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are having in the parking garage
Yeah.
is almost a word for word thing that was said in like season 7 or 8 of Supernatural. So Taylor and I are sitting there watching this, and we looked at each other and we both had the exact same thought. We were like, this is the plot in season 8 of Supernatural, which I think is really funny.
That Supernatural just stole the plot of this movie for
Well,
its.
so either yes, because Supernatural season 8 came out in like 2010, and this is 99, or there's something about Catholicism or some common story that this all radiates from.
So then we're introduced to Rickman, and when he shows his nub where a dick should be, I was like, it would have been less gross to see his dick. That was pretty
That
disgusting.
was you know what it reminded me of is it reminded me of Kevin Smith's later movie Tusk, where he does all this like body
You
horror
you've
stuff.
watched Tusk?
I've seen a clip. I was disgusted, and then I never wanted to watch it again.
All right, well, in September, let's do it.
Ugh.
And then as he's talking her into this, and then she's like, I don't want to do it, and he's like, well, you're going to, I mean, it's gonna happen. And then you'll have two prophets, one is the silent type or the quiet type. It is like, if you've watched all these movies, you know exactly what's going to happen. I did wonder. So the hockey players start beating her up, but they are like almost like toying with her until Jay and Silent Bob get
Uh,
there. It was like, why don't you just fuck? Later on, Jason Lee makes the joke like, "I'm not a Bond villain. I'm not going to reveal my plan." Yet his henchmen are like Bond henchmen, where they like toy with her instead of just killing her right away. Like they easily could have killed her in that parking lot.
yeah, but I just took that they're not very good. Like
Yeah,
they're kind of incapable henchmen, especially getting their asses whooped by Jay and Silent Bob. You know what's also confusing is like their powers, their limitations of their powers, because you see them literally tear into the fabric of time and space and go through, and you're like, well, shit, dude, if you can do that, then why don't you just kill her at literally any given moment?
correct.
Like
So
while they're sleeping or some shit like that.
we find out Jay and Silent Bob are in this area because they wanted to go to Shermer, Illinois to sell weed, but then they find out that John Hughes made it up, which is a very funny gag.
I thought they wanted to go to Shermer, Illinois to bang hot chicks like Molly Ringwald.
Well, they said also that no one was a weed dealer there so that they could make a ton of money.
You don't think Bender from Breakfast Club is a weed dealer?
They didn't seem to think there was. I've never seen The Breakfast
Interesting.
Club, so we can do that.
We'll do it in
And then
September.
a nice a nice gag is when he's like, if you're telling me if there's 5 minutes left to live that you won't have sex with me, and she's like, fine, sure. And he's like, slut. Also, we came to this clinic to find loose women because we figured,
Yeah, Jay is like the most repulsive character ever written into fiction, I feel like. And it reminds me of the story that, have you heard of this little movie called Superbad?
I've heard of it.
Have you seen it?
The movie Superbad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've fucking seen Superbad.
Okay. So, you know how Jonah Hill's character is awful?
He's not a great guy.
So, there's this scene. So, the movie was produced by Sony,
Okay.
and Seth Rogen was talking about how there's a scene in the bedroom of Michael Cera's character, and they're playing the PlayStation.
The PlayStation.
Yeah. And they have a scene where, like in the script, Michael Cera and Jonah Hill are playing PlayStation. And Sony comes in and says, hey, you can't have Jonah Hill touch the PlayStation. And Seth Rogen's like, why not? And they're like, he's too horrible of a character to touch one of our products. And he's sitting there so confused because he's like, Sony's producing it. I'm using a PlayStation, which is a Sony product. Why is this an issue? And he's like, I took such offense to this because the Jonah Hill character is based off of me as a kid.
I would almost just like refilm it with like an Xbox just to go like, all right, well, fuck you then.
Well, so it was just Michael Cera who handles the remote, and then
Oh yeah, I
Jonah Hill doesn't
remember.
touch
I
it.
remember the movie in depth.
Okay, but it's like, Jay and Silent Bob are kind of the same but different personas of those actors who play them. And yeah, no, dude, Jay is a horrible fucking guy in this movie, and I feel like, does Jason Mewes ever get offended on how horrible Kevin Smith writes his character?
I don't think he thinks of himself as Jay though. He's not like, oh, this is who Kevin Smith thinks I am.
The heroin addict doesn't think that he's even a little bit like Jay.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Okay.
So anyway, moving on. We meet Chris Rock. He's very funny, but I want to talk about the boardroom scene because some of the stuff these people do in the boardroom, like, fucking disgusting.
Well,
Obviously.
so let's go systematically by name. Who do you think is on the Epstein Island list?
Well, I mean, I don't remember any of their names.
I know. The answer is all of them except the woman.
Okay. It was a good joke you had there.
So Mubi is Disney, right? Like the
Well,
magazine, the TV show, the theme parks.
I didn't take it as that. I mean, because they also have like restaurants with ball pits, right?
That's a
I think it was just
McDonald's
capitalism.
thing.
I think it was
Capitalism.
capitalism and idolatry of things like that. I mean, it's
The
fucking
the
golden calf.
golden calf joke is pretty funny.
I will say that there were some crimes that were worse than others of those people. Like, not not all were created
Well,
equal.
that last dude molests his son, right?
Yeah, I mean,
That was
probably.
heavily implied.
The one guy just didn't like having a gay son, but I mean, like, you know, the other guy fucked little kids in Thailand. So, then the shit demon, which I was dealing with my own today. That gets all of us.
Sure. I do want to say that Loki being completely unhinged, about to shoot that innocent lady who, just because
You
she
didn't
didn't
say
say,
God bless you.
yeah, you didn't say God bless you when I sneezed.
It was a very funny
Yeah,
joke.
that's good.
So they have that at the bar, and then they are, I guess, just starting to make it to New Jersey, and we get all of them on the train, which I did not expect to happen, where everyone runs in together.
I think really that's when the movie starts to take a turn, because it's like turning the head on your expectations of how Ben Affleck and Matt Damon turn out, thinking Loki is the more unstable one and Bartleby is the more level-headed one. But then after this encounter with the troop, it's like Bartleby's Ben Affleck becomes more unhinged. And I think that's interesting. I think that like kind of propels the movie to the ending.
I agree, and I also think it's pretty good writing because yeah, our expectations based on the beginning where Bartleby talked Loki into not killing people anymore, and that being what set this off. Yeah, I think it is great storytelling. And then the no ticket, which is just a reference to the Last Crusade.
There's a lot of other movie references throughout. I can't, man, I was gonna kind of go back and take a note of all of them, but there was one at the very, very end where you see Alan Rickman and Alana
Million
Morissette,
Dollar Man.
where he says,
She,
"What?"
she can rebuild you
Yes,
and
I
make you
think that
better.
is it. Better, make it
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
And then we find out that God loves skee ball, and this is also sort of, we learn this at the very end, which then connects with the beginning. But like I said, easy to follow. That God is incapacitated somewhere because if he had died in his human form, he would have just come back as God. But which does lead to a funny moment where Bethany is like about to kill a homeless man, and she's like, "I really hope I'm right."
I don't understand how she gets like shot, stabbed.
There's like an explosion, and like I think she like runs into something, probably. I don't know, or just
Okay, a
the
little bit
power.
unclear.
So then they go talk to Glick to try and get him to cancel the church ceremony. And I got to say, they make a terrible argument to him. Like, it is not in any way like he should not have listened to them because they wouldn't tell him the truth. And like, it just was like, yeah, a bad person's going to do something. He's like, what the fuck? You want me to listen to this?
Yeah, I agree. I think for the first time, I think the Catholic Church made a good decision.
He says they don't make, the Catholic Church doesn't make mistakes. What about the slaves? What about the Holocaust? Okay, mistakes were made.
Dude, I can't get over the rebranding of the Catholic Church. Like that is all very funny to me, how it's almost like comic booky with the wows and wowzas and the like the poppy. There's an artist that kind of does it that way, but the very, comic booky look to it. But my favorite gag of that whole thing is that there's a banner across the church that says Catholicism, wow. But then once the angels wreak havoc and kill all those people and the sign is like destroyed, it then says Catholicism, ow.
Oh, yeah. So they go to the church, kill a cop. I love the reveal, like, oh, Glick, he through blessed his golf club, so that's how they're able to kill Azrael. It's a very funny,
Oh yeah.
like very funny plot device.
What do you think about the joke that Jason Lee says is, can you make a holy bartender?
it's like a dad joke.
Yeah.
But then Jason Mewes like getting it like almost a minute later. Like, oh, I get it. That's a good one. So they go to the church. Loki has already cut his wings off, but they haven't gone through yet. And Ben Affleck is just above Bartleby, just throwing people to the ground.
The the wings coming down, I was just like, those look bad. Not the animatronics. Like the animatronics on them, the un CGI wings actually looked really good, but the CGI wings looked pretty awful.
So then he kills Matt, which Ben does, which leads me to the question of, so Jason Mewes Jay, in order to buy Bethany some times, shoots at Ben, cutting his wings off, and they're like, "You helped him, stupid." But as we just saw, that made him human, which made Matt easy to kill. So wouldn't that make Ben easy to kill? And you could just now put a bullet in him before he makes it into the church?
It made sense as I was watching the movie, but now that you explain it like that, yeah.
So it's like the thing that made it. It was a part of the movie where I was like, seems a little undercooked.
Well, I guess it made sense because he ran out of bullets. So all Ben Affleck had to do at that point was just walk through the archway. And then
Yeah,
as he was doing that, that's when God interfered.
yeah, I guess you could say that. So that's fine. Ben says he's sorry, and they have this. It's actually kind of a very touching moment with God and Bartleby, and then she explodes his head and uses her
It's quite
dress to wipe off
satisfying.
the blood. Yeah. And then God undoes all the destruction, which apparently was not in the script, but the church that they were using was like, "Hey, can you clean this stuff up finally? Like we've let you use this for a while." So he cleans it up and then adds that in the movie of God did this. Now, are we saying God undid all the deaths or just cleaned up the
I
bodies?
wondered that. I want to say undid all the deaths, probably. You know what? What a church to let them
Yeah.
do that.
So, and then we find out that Bethany dies, but God brings her back as well. And then Bethany is pregnant. And then there's this line, they have this whole through line in the movie where it's like, oh, God's actually a woman, but they keep going back, he, she. And you're like, oh, what's that about? And then I think, what is it? I think it's Chris Rock who's like, God isn't really a woman. He really isn't anything, right? Like, it isn't like our human
Yeah, like
brain.
the Alana Morissette figurehead is just kind of a way for us to comprehend a presence of God in front of us, right?
Right.
One thing we never talked about was Selma Hayek in this movie.
Yeah, she was good. No
Super
notes.
hot. I think people say that the From Dusk Till Dawn is her hottest. I disagree. This might be actually her hottest role.
Yeah, there were no people drinking from her feet in this, but
But, well, then again, Quentin Tarantino isn't directing this. Although, it's funny, both make a cameo in their own movies.
so Kevin Smith, we're into fun fact territory, which leads to this. Kevin Smith asked Robert Rodriguez, friend of Quentin Tarantino, to direct the movie, and Rodriguez read the script and was like, "You need to direct this. This is your movie."
I
So
wonder, I wonder if it would have been a better movie. I like Robert Rodriguez as a director. I think he's a pretty capable director.
yeah, but besides like the Spy Kids movie, has he done comedy like this?
I mean,
Machete's, I guess, kind of funny.
yeah, but also like he
Did he
does
direct
horror,
Machete?
and
I might have just made that up. I don't know if he directed Machete.
I don't know, but you might have made that up. But you know what they say, like comedy is only like a step away from horror, or vice versa. I think he could have made it work.
Who says that?
People.
What do they mean by that? What are we doing? Machete
That's
was
the rule.
directed by Ethan
That's the
Mankiewicz.
goal.
Robert Rodriguez did direct part of Machete,
Okay.
I guess.
Well,
All right, so the role of Loki was written for Jason Lee, but scheduling conflicts made him have to take a smaller role, and then Matt Damon is Loki. Matt Damon, this movie does not work as well without those two as the leads.
I mean, I'm actually surprised the restraint they had on not having like a Goodwill Hunting reference at this point,
That comes in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Well, yeah, but don't they play themselves?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. See, that makes more sense.
For the role of Azrael, Bill Murray, John Travolta, and Adam Sandler were considered. Sandler turned down the role to make Big Daddy. I think that worked out for everybody. Kevin Smith's first choice for the role of Bethany was Gillian Anderson.
That would
Which-
have been pretty interesting.
Yeah, that would have been great. I've really become a big fan of hers. And then I wasn't a big X-Files guy. My brother was. Joey Lauren Adams, Amy from Chasing Amy, was considered for the role of Bethany, which is interesting that he didn't go that way because, I don't know, you have her in that. Like, why?
I like this chick, though. I don't know her name, but I like her.
I love that everyone's a chick to you.
Everyone's
mean?
a chick or a dude.
Yeah, you know, you're really feeling the 90s of this, I think, is what's happening. You know what I mean?
A babe.
Yeah, you haven't called anyone dude yet. You know what I mean?
Jay's a dude. Bob's a dude.
Have you seen Linda Fiorentino in anything else besides this?
I
You wanna-
feel like I have. If you start naming some of her movies, maybe.
To me, Men in Black is kind of the big one.
Oh, you know, I just fucking watched that today. I didn't even recognize her.
That's interesting. So the last thing she did was a video in 2009. And then, yeah, her career really ended like right after this.
You know what's funny is that, do you know what a scion is? Because I think the twist of her being a descendant of Jesus and the fact that Jesus had siblings and everything like that, and it was hidden because they didn't want the enemy in quotations, to know who the descendants of Jesus was. I thought that was like all really great plot.
It was. Last person, Shannon Doherty, who was Renee in Mallrats, wanted Bethany and didn't give it to her. Holly Hunter was originally written as the God role, but she couldn't do it. Emma Thompson was going to appear as God, but she had to withdraw because she had her first child. She was pregnant. Alanis Morissette was originally meant to play Bethany, but was unable because of her world tour. That seems odd to me that he was going to give someone like that this part, like a singer. Albert Brooks was offered the role of Cardinal Glick, which would have been amazing.
It would
And
have been amazing. Although I really
love
like George
Carlin.
Carlin.
Yeah, I love Carlin in this. But Albert Brooks is maybe one of the like greatest, most underappreciated like comedic talents. And so if you put him in a comedy, it's like it's going to be fucking good. Kevin Smith had Samuel L. Jackson and Will Smith in mind to play Rufus. It's fucking shooting your shot right there for sure. Denzel was his third choice.
Alanis Morissette as God. Don't you think that's a bit ironic? Well, thanks for listening to another episode of I Finally Watched. I'm Milan.
And this is David. And today, we finally watched Dogma.